A national sports hero, a secret relationship, and a murder that shocked an entire nation. This is a story of trust betrayed and a bright future stolen. It's the story of Keishla Ortiz in the vibrant community of San Juan, Puerto Rico. Keishla Ortiz was a beacon of warmth. Born in 1993, she grew up with a deep, compassionate love for animals. Friends and family remember her as kind and sociable, a young woman whose greatest ambition was to become a veterinarian. Her life was filled with simple joys, the company of her pets, the support of her family, and the dreams she was working hard to achieve. Her world was one of promise, defined by the care she extended to every living creature she met. But a shadow from her past was about to eclipse her future. On the other side of San Juan, a different kind of star was rising. Verdejo, known as El Diamante, was Puerto Rico's boxing prodigy. He was more than just an athlete. He was a symbol of national pride. Representing his country at the 2012 Olympics, he captured the hearts of millions. His career was a highlight reel of powerful punches, championship belts, and roaring crowds. Verdejo was a hero, a celebrated figure who seemed to have it all, a successful career, a public marriage, and a daughter. But behind the blinding lights of the boxing ring and the curated image of a family man, he harbored a dark and possessive secret. Keishla and knew each other since they were children. Their youthful connection blossomed into a romance during their teenage years. It was a bond that, never truly ended. Even after he married another woman and started a family, he maintained a relationship with Keishla. It was a secret affair conducted in the shadows, away from the public eye and the scrutiny of his family. Keishla's family saw the danger. They knew the dynamic was unhealthy and warned her about Verdejo. They pleaded with her to break away, to find a love that didn't have to hide. But her connection to him was a complex web of history, affection, and, as would later be revealed, fear. Messages exchanged between them painted a picture of a man who was controlling and possessive. She was trapped, caught between her feelings for the man she once loved and the growing threats that kept her from leaving. This secret, held for years, was a ticking time bomb. In April 2021, everything changed. Keishla discovered she was pregnant. She shared the news with, perhaps hoping it would be a turning point for them. But for Verdejo, it was a crisis. The pregnancy threatened to unravel the carefully constructed facade of his public life. His career, his reputation, his family, everything he had built was suddenly at risk of collapsing. He saw the baby not as a child but as a liability. His reaction was swift and cold. He demanded she terminate the pregnancy. Keishla refused. She wanted her child. Her refusal was an act of defiance, a mother's instinct to protect her unborn baby. But in Verdejo's mind, her decision was a declaration of war against his public image. Panic set in. He became desperate to erase the problem, and his fear of exposure quickly warped into a monstrous, calculated resolve. He was a champion boxer, trained to solve problems in the ring with force. Now he would apply that same brutal logic to his personal life, with devastating consequences. On April 29, 2021, Keishla agreed to meet. She believed they were going to discuss the pregnancy. She drove her car to a meeting point under a bridge in San Juan, likely still holding on to a sliver of hope. But Verdejo didn't come alone. He had enlisted the help of an accomplice, Luis Antonio. What happened next was a brutal and premeditated act of violence. Keishla was ambushed. She was forcibly taken from her car, assaulted, and injected with a dangerous substance. Then her hands and feet were bound with wire. They tied her to a heavy concrete block. In a final, horrific act, Verdejo and his accomplice threw her from the Teodoro Moscoso Bridge into the cold, dark waters of the San Lagoon. They watched as she disappeared beneath the surface. Keishla Ortiz, 27 years old and pregnant, never came home. When Keishla didn't return, her family immediately knew something was terribly wrong. They reported her missing, pointing the finger directly at Verdejo. An urgent search began, and a nation held its breath. 2 days later, on May 1st, her body was recovered from the lagoon. The island of Puerto Rico erupted in grief and outrage. Protests broke out, with crowds demanding justice for Keishla and her unborn child. The hero they had once cheered for was now the prime suspect in a heinous murder. The investigation quickly closed in on Verdejo. The evidence against him was overwhelming and damning. Surveillance cameras from the Teodoro Moscoso Bridge captured his distinctive custom truck at the scene at the exact time of the crime. The footage tracked his vehicle to and from the lagoon, creating an undeniable digital footprint. Cell phone location data placed both him and Keishla at the bridge, but the most crucial piece of evidence came from within his own conspiracy. Faced with the mountain of evidence, Verdejo's accomplice, Luis, confessed. He detailed the entire plan from the initial plotting to the murder itself. He became the prosecution's star witness, providing a chilling first-hand account of Keishla's final moments. His testimony painted a picture of Verdejo as a cold and calculating killer, obsessed with his reputation above all else. Forensic evidence, including hair found in Verdejo's truck that matched Keishla's, corroborated the accomplice's story. The champion boxer, so used to controlling the narrative, had left a trail of evidence he could not erase. In July 2023, after a highly publicized trial that captivated Puerto Rico, the verdict was delivered. The jury found Verdejo guilty of kidnapping resulting in death and of intentionally killing an unborn child. The courtroom was filled with emotion as justice, long awaited, was finally served. He was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. His accomplice was also found guilty and sentenced for his role in the crime. The gavel fell, not with the triumphant ring of a boxing bell, but with the solemn finality of a life sentence. The hero had fallen, his legacy forever stained by his monstrous actions. Justice was served, but it came at an unbearable cost. 2 lives were lost that day, Keishla's and her baby's. Her family was left with a void that can never be filled. Her dream of becoming a veterinarian, of a life filled with love and family, was extinguished in the dark waters of a lagoon. Keishla's story is a tragic reminder of the dangers of intimate partner violence and the dark secrets that can hide behind a public persona. It's a call to listen, to believe, and to protect those who are trapped in cycles of fear and control. Her name is Keishla Ortiz. Remember her.